Hi, just a quick heads up that this episode was originally recorded back in October of 2023, but unfortunately there was a delay on the campaign release, so the new date for Stowii getting released is now January the 30th. So sit back, relax and listen to a slice of the past. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to We're Not Wizards. We are the best, but not wizards. Enjoy the show!
Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for autumn, because I used to do months, but now we're getting into seasons. And I'm just going to say, if you go down to the Fantasy Woods today, you're in for a big surprise. If you go down to the Fantasy Woods today, you'll never believe your eyes, especially if you're looking to go down the woods and get yourself a table, or maybe make yourself a table, and maybe you're thinking, I'd like to get one of these tables, but these tables are just so big and cumbersome and huge, and I have people coming round, and then, I just can't have this fully huge, just behemoth kind of sitting in the middle of the table. I want something I can pack away. I want something I can stow away. I almost want something that's a bit stowy. And if I want something that's a bit stowy, I need to speak to somebody who's going to maybe be bringing us a story to the table. And that is Dav Thomas. And Dav Thomas is from the Fantasy Woodworks, and he's here to talk all about Stowii, which is the exciting, portable, adaptable, foldaway gaming table, which is coming soon to crowdfunding. There you go. Hi, Dav. How are you?
Hi, Richard. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, very good intro there.
I'm almost becoming like Ted Rogers in 3-2-1. There's like an end clue, and that'll give you your age away, if you know what I'm talking
Absolutely.
about. Where somebody mentions a word, and then it's like, kind of go to it, and then you kind of get to it, and I'm pleased to tell you that you've won a holiday. So there you go. So
I've looked back through your episodes, and I, as far as I know, I'm one of your first accessories. I think, am I not? I didn't go back through all of them.
I think. It depends what you mean, because in terms of like murdering shows, I've had a few accessories. In terms of that, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we've had, kind of systems on and stuff like that. We had the guys from Diced on, but they're kind of like helping kind of you play games. I don't think we've actually had kind of tables, and somebody's going to be shouting at me going, what about me? Didn't you forget my
wonderful table?
My amazing idea? It's like, you forgot my table. Oh yeah, sorry, the table. But the other table people don't speak to us, because there you go. Don't know if they've got some kind of envy. I've no idea what we're talking about. Anyway, what we're going to do, what we like to do in the show, is we like to have a little kind of, I guess, look back at the sapling of the past before we stare at the redwood of the present, and we look forward to the axe of the future, which is as bad as it gets. You're from up north, am I right? Or down south? Because I am up north, and you are technically down south.
Definitely down south from you. My wife's from near Inverness, so she basically says everyone is from down south. So
that must mean that on your way up, if you've gone up to see our side of the family, that you would have passed through my way, because I'm central Scotland, and you can't escape kind of going through central Scotland.
Yeah, we kind of get to Edinburgh, and we're like, well, that's Glasgow. Then we're like, well, that's kind of halfway there. So it's a fair old trip.
It's the last 6 miles I've heard to Inverness, in which you have to get on horseback.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
you have to take out the hunting rules to take down the local flora and fauna.
If the snow gates are down, you just turn around and go home again.
It's like your man that wrote your man that wrote Game of Thrones kind of based the frozen north on Inverness folk are going to come and get me. It's okay, you can't come and get me because the sun comes down here and I know you're afraid of it. we're talking about, obviously we're going to talk about Stowii at some point, probably like minute 45, and then you'll go, goodness sake, this is a whole load of nonsense, why weren't we talking about this before? But you've this is going to say, I mean, you're a bit of a beaver, Dav. You've always had a bit of a love of wood.
I am indeed a beaver. I do love wood. That sounds very wrong, doesn't it?
That's why I was going there, because people in America are going to be listening to this.
Oh my god!
Don't do impressions, because that just sounds bad at all. Now we've lost all of our American listeners, except the really intelligent ones who'll stay on and identify a joke when they kind of hear them. So I mean, I was when I had Scott Pease on the other show, I was talking about him, getting home after a hard day of project management and whittling some wood. But that seems to have been your start. I mean, looking at the wonderful kind of autobiography that you put on the fantasywoodworks.com/about.
Well, yeah,
you had an attic, a workshop at the age of 14.
I did. I always had a thing about wood, and I had an attic in my parents' house. It was half. My love at the time was photography and woodwork, so I had a dark room that I set up in the attic. So half of it was dark room, and then the other half was woodwork, which is a diabolical idea, obviously, because you're busy sanding and planing, and then you go into the other half, which is supposed to be, dust free. And all your pictures come out like it's snowing on all of them. And
was it like a battle between the two of the hobbies, and eventually photography just had to go to the wayside because there was no way?
No, it didn't actually.
You could kind of keep.
No, photography's always been there as well. I was once nominated to be as the. I don't know who nominated me, but I was nominated as the universe's best film photographer. And the final handing out of prizes was in Las Vegas. I didn't go. I just imagine if I turned up and I was in the running to win this thing, and some sort of alien, some grey alien turned up with a cracking portfolio and go, "No, here you go." Like, no, why wasn't it just the world?
It's like, the slugs from Cephala 5 popped up and says, well, actually, we take photographs in the 5th dimension, including time. So you can see how this kind of flower, you can see this flower just now, but if you switch the photograph slightly, you can also see how it looks when it was just fresh, and then when it eventually dies and seeds and becomes a new flower, and just like, well, can't compete with
I'm
that,
there in the background ripping up my photographs of trees, and I know I've blown it again.
But how do you become? I mean, who's the person that goes, we can decide who's the best in the universe? I mean, surely that's just. I'm
guessing they didn't have a lot of people nominated from Venus or anything. I'm guessing it was mainly world based. I can't see it going much beyond that. But does it sound more impressive if you're the best photographer in the known universe?
Because I guess on the other side of it, if you said I'm kind of I'm kind of like the photographer's Mr. Universe,
yes,
people would expect you to be like there with your camera and your fake tan and your absolutely very, very low body fat, and every time you were taking a picture you were kind of switching poses. It's like, do you want to see this big exposure, or do you want to see the swans? Or did you get tickets for the gun show? And it would be kind of taking pictures, but it would be kind of taking sweeping big arm
They would definitely be bitterly disappointed when I turned up with my middle-aged beer-drinking body, my head under a cloth on an old Victorian-style camera, just swearing because I can't see the screen anymore.
So, touching on the photography then, because I'm looking at the website. Is this the website, the photography on this, is this the result of your efforts then?
Yeah, I've got a very checkered, all over the place path, really. So I've done many things in my life, none of them very successfully, unfortunately.
All right.
So yeah, I went to uni to study industrial design. Really, I only really studied drinking, playing guitar, seeing bands, and learning the worth of the check guarantee card that we used to have back in the day, which meant any time you wanted a Pepe's pizza, you just sign that check, and there you go. And
Wow.
until the bank goes, I think you probably need to hand that card back again now.
You probably just can't. You just can't. You're right. You're writing checks. You can't cash. Kind of thing. We do remember there was in Edinburgh, just at the top of the end of Princess Street. If you go down a bit, just towards the Playhouse on the right hand side, there was a famous pub called the Black Bull, and they used to cash checks.
Yeah.
It's got near payday and you didn't have any money, you would just go into the Black Bull, and you, as long as you kind of like had enough for a pint, you'd go and have a pint, and you'd go, oh, go and cash this check, will you? And you just used to be quite happy to kind of do it.
They were golden days.
I don't know if it was part of some
absolute golden days. I think they guaranteed up to 50 quid, so you could just be like, yeah, okay. See what?
Yes. Yeah, write you a check, and then you would just have to deal with the crushing overdraft fees as a student kind of later on. But that was one of these. That was one of these kind of things. So yeah, out of college, I then accidentally became a graphic designer, which I then did for about 20 years. Which stemmed from, at the time I had we started a business making concrete speaker stands, me and my mate. Okay.
And quite why, I have no idea, but that was what we were doing. And my mate Billy worked at the uni at the time, and someone phoned up and said, is there anyone there who might be able to design a brochure for our company, like a graphic design department? They didn't have one at Sheffield Uni at the time, so Billy came around to my house at lunchtime and went, do you think we could design a brochure? And I was like, yeah, of course we can design a brochure. How hard can that be? And that's where it all started, a 20-year career in graphic design.
But he was like, I did concrete speaker stands, and then it's like, is that not like one of those kind of, that leads into, there must be a joke about that, you know what I mean? There must be some kind of thing, you know, so there I was, on my second concrete speaker stand. My mate turns up and he says, we've got to make this brochure. But you sound a bit bitter about being a graphic designer. Was it one of these kind of things that you fell into and then you weren't able to get out because the money was steady and the money was okay, and you started off going, I want to do creative flair? But then the problem with brochures and stuff like that is people, they expect kind of standard, normal stuff with particular types of brochures. And if you want to be really creatively flary, then people go, nah, I don't like that. I just want what they've got, except in green.
Well, I did. There was an element of that. I remember, because as part of the job as well, I took on photography. So I did quite a bit of product photography too. And I remember at one point photographing toilet seats, thinking this isn't what I was looking for in life. I mean, there were new ones. There weren't used toilet seats, but I was like, this wasn't where I was aiming for. But I did, we did do quite a lot in the early days. We did a lot of work for the lead mill here in Sheffield, doing a lot of band posters and all that stuff. So it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
And then when I went on and got a proper job, we did a lot of, back in the day, it was PS2 packaging. So stuff for Sony and some quite big companies. So the work was quite interesting. But I always felt a bit like a fraud because I never sort of meant to be a graphic designer. I always felt, I had that imposter syndrome, even though I got to be, a senior designer and all this and have all my own clients and all that sort of business. I always thought, I'm not sure this is quite what I'm not sure I'm qualified for this 20 years later.
I think you fall into stuff though. You end up becoming kind of like good at stuff. And you don't mean to end up becoming kind of like good at stuff. And then you sit there and you get a horrific amount of imposter syndrome with like people, because you listen to, you look at other people and you compare yourself to other people and what they're doing. And you're like, I'm not anywhere close to what these people are kind of doing. And yet they're considering me in the same kind of places these people, and I can understand kind of I do understand kind of imposter kind of syndrome. Did the photography, or did that still allow you to have like a creative escape? Because you sound to me like somebody that, I could put you in a graphic design job and you would end up turning out the same stuff, but also at the same time you want to be sneaking off and doing kind of Banksies. You want to be doing something kind of creative that isn't tied down, which is a bit more free. I can imagine getting a brief from Sony saying, okay, what you've got to have is, it's a set of shoes on like a skateboard, except the shoes and the skateboard have got to be on fire and the fire's got to be green. And they've got a very particular kind of shade of green that they want in the photograph. And it's kind of, you're creative, but you're kind of restricted in your creativity. So when you were away from that, were you kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do all these different things?
Yeah,
instead?
I've always had the misfortune of being overly creative. So I've always got to be coming up with something, designing something. So the photography kind of came from... the landscape photography that I ended up doing kind of came from the fact I was getting fat, and I was like, I need to go out in the Peak District and walk around, and I need an excuse really, because I'm not just going to potter about, so I'm going to take up landscape photography.
Right.
So I sort of went out, and I'm not the sort of person who will just be average. I hate just going, oh, it's fine, I'll just do what everyone else is doing. I always sort of want to forge my own path, so I sort of ended up being a bit more creative and doing stuff that wasn't the norm landscape photography wise, which was cool. It sort of gets you a bit more known in that field, and I got to be. If I was a football team, I'd say I was somewhere around Wigan Athletics, something like that in the photography. If
you could have said Sheffield. I was round about Sheffield.
I'm not that bad. So yeah, that was something I haven't really done much for quite a few years now, and I do think I should really try get back into it again. It's getting to the season now when I kind of like the dreek weather, and I photograph like bits of twigs and things, so that's the sort of weather I like for that sort of thing.
So you're still very much a kind of a rambler, a walkabouter, and the reason that I'm saying this is because I am looking at your sets, which can only be saying you've got some hardwood plinths, and I never thought that would be a phrase I would ever be saying on this show in the last 7 years I've been doing it. But do you, when you're going out and about, when you're doing your photography, do you often come back with a big bag of wood that you've managed to kind of find as well? Because on shop I can see lots and lots of little bits
not
of
so
wood.
much for the products. One of the side effects of doing Stowii and getting very much into the game world is I've started painting miniatures again, which was something I used to do when I was like 15, that sort of age. And I did a previous Kickstarter, which was Stacky, which was some sort of boxes, like trays that all stack on top of each other. And I was like, I need some miniatures to put in the photos here. I was like, I can paint I need another task to use my time. I'll start painting miniatures again. And since then, I absolutely love it now. I absolutely love doing it. But I will. Yesterday, there'd been some wind up here, and we've got a tree outside the house, and loads of mossy branches had fallen off the tree. And I was sort of picking them all up, and my wife's like, "This is for your little fellas, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah." So she's my hobby space is up in the attic, so she's always like, "Are you going upstairs to play with your little fellas?" I'm like, "Yes."
Oh, wow. But that's all right, because the new series of maths has started.
Yes.
So it's fine. It's like, because if you sit down and go, tonight I'm just going to sit down next to you and watch the telly. and then the various television shows starting about halfway through. You get a sideways glance.
What are you doing?
And it's like, have you not got something to do? And I thought, well, I remember just the other week we were having this conversation about we're not spending enough time together. And it's like, yes, well, that wasn't applicable for tonight, because, I've got my shows on tonight, and you know, like watching my shows. So couldn't you take a trek and do something else instead?
She's actually quite good, because one of my other interests that's probably happened from being in a workshop a lot, listening to podcasts, is she's got a bit of a thing for Bigfoot and all that sort of business. So we like sit down to watch a TV program, and Carol will be like, "Put something on." I'm like, "Yeah, Bigfoot documentary." She's like, "Oh, not another one."
And imagine usually, like, if there's the conversation about, you know, where two people sit down together in a relationship, and one of them goes, "We have to talk about your big feet obsession." It's usually something else. You know, it's not actually your actual Bigfoot obsession. So in terms of that, then, are you convinced? Are you one of these people that you watch it? Because I'll tell you what. Okay, I watch Ghost Adventures.
Oh yeah.
And Ghost Adventures is a guilty pleasure, because you kind of get them going into, you know, and this 17th century house was well renowned for the murders that happened, and then they get the machine out, and they get the machine with a little pointy little lights and stuff like that, and then they go now we're just going to record what's going on in the background, and then they play back the tape, and they go, and they go, "Did you hear that?"
Peter.
And then they play it down, and they sew it, and then you get the voiceover coming in, who sounds like nobody who's on the team, and he goes, "And if we play it back, we can clearly hear the voice saying, 'I'm trapped in the 7th level of hell. Please rescue me.'" And it's just like, when it's so Ghost Adventures is like that. So
I have my suspicions that
in terms of,
I can't remember what his name is. The guy who runs it, I think he might be just putting it on a little bit, to be honest. I once read a review of that guy. Someone had been on one of his ghost hunts, and the review basically said it was an hour of him just shouting at dust. That's all he was doing.
It's like, and then if he wasn't shouting it, he was sniffing.
Yes.
It was basically, he's taking lines of ghost dust. It's like, what are you doing down in the cellar?
Hey,
nothing.
Pays good money, so fair play to him.
Exactly. Well, exactly. You kind of. I mean, we laugh and joke, but they've got like a mainstream kind of television show. They're obviously, and they're going about kind of America, making lots of money, to the point that there's like UK ones and stuff like that. Yeah, Ghost Adventures is the kind of thing. So, do you believe that there is a person with big feet going about? Just cutting about.
I think there are
business?
so many sightings. I think there has to be something. There has to be something going on. I think it might be interdimensional, though. I don't think it's a big hairy monkey going around chucking. I think it's coming from another dimension.
I don't see anything wrong with that, because we're kind of due interdimensional beings now, really. If you think about it, we've had kind of like, pandemics and kind of, the rise of, proto-fascism and all that kind of nonsense. So I think we're kind of due some kind of interdimensional kind of beastie coming.
Well, I think knowing my luck, I'll have some success with Stowii, and then like 2 months later, the aliens will turn up and just obliterate half the Earth. I'm like, just when it was starting to work.
But in all fairness, I know that there's some people that they ran a Kickstarter for the board game, and then they were like, 2019, that's our year.
Yeah,
we're just going to get this all out there and delivered. And then they get funded in November of 2019, and then they go, here we go, we've done it, we've done really, really well. And then they hit into 2020 and everything just shut down, and they're just like that. You're going to get your
They're
game.
actually playing Pandemic for real.
But we don't know when. And then the shipping costs went up, and there's actually, and there's still kind of game designers out there that are still releasing their monthly updates to say, sorry guys, we're still waiting for things to get made because we completely kind of ran out of money. How do you spell Stacky? Let's have a look at Stacky.
Stacky is S-T-A... Oh god, I forgot. S-T-A-C-K-I-I.
Oh, right.
So like Stowii, but stacky. It's a theme going on.
Stacky. I like things with two eyes, like Bigfoot. Oh, okay. Why didn't I see this? That's lovely.
Thank you.
Do you make them all yourself then, or do you get them manufactured to kind of make them yourself?
This is all part of my horror story. I decided to do that little Kickstarter as a sort of gap to fill things in, and I was like, I'll just make these myself. I can do this.
Wow.
Not realizing how hard it was to make. I think like 500 components in the end on this project. So it's obviously late to be fulfilled, and it's basically they're all going out at the moment. But yeah, my lesson learned is do not try and mass produce anything yourself on your little CNC machines, because it leads to bad ways.
Has that been like a whole series of lessons then, in terms of how you're meant to do stuff, what you should be doing stuff? Because I know that this has been, I mean, joking aside, the last 2 years have been a pile of lessons for people that are, I've got probably at least one definite, Kickstarter that I'm just kind of like, I don't think I'm ever going to see this one, because they were one of the people that they had I think it was like a £12,000 funding goal, and they funded to like 20 grand or something like that, and now and then there was like they were at the tail end of the pandemic, and then they were starting at the cost of the energy crisis and stuff like that, and they're just like, we're not going to try and ask you for extra money because we don't think it's fair, so we're just going to wait until kind of like prices stabilize. And it's like, well, prices are stabilizing, but they're stabilizing as in they're going in a steady kind
upward
of
trajectory.
kind of
It
incline.
was
exactly.
It was. I mean, the idea with Stowii was it was actually initially supposed to launch over a year ago. But it got put off, and I'm quite glad it did, because the price of wood has gone up quite a lot. Obviously, all the shipping and things as well. So if we had have launched it a year and a half ago, we probably would be in that position where we'd be like, any sort of profit we had seems to have disappeared. So at least now it's hopefully at the higher end of material cost. And things have evened out quite well. So hopefully, it's better now that it's held off to this stage.
Where did based on your history, I'm wondering if somebody just ran into the room and went, Dav, we've got to make a gaming table, and you went right.
You should actually say that. What happened was, I was a graphic designer, and I was doing a lot of web stuff, and I was just like, I'm sick of this now. I'm sick of trying to learn JavaScript and all these things. I'm too old for all this lot. I want to go back to furniture, and when I bought my house, I built a big workshop in the garden, and it was as big as building regs would allow. So I was like, I'm going to get back into furniture, and I'd done an interior for a friend's camper van, and I did an interior for my own camper van. So I was like, I'm going to start a camper van interior business. And at that point, my wife should have slapped me hard around my face and gone, "You are not going to do that." But instead, she went, "Oh, okay, cool." And what led on from that was maybe 7 of the worst years of my life. It was absolutely horrendous. It took me to the darkest places. I was working like 90 hours a week, not really making any money. It was horrendous. So it was actually when lockdown happened, I was like, I have to get out of this. And thankfully, lockdown worked quite well for me, because people weren't going, I need my camper van in 2 weeks' time because I'm going on holiday. I'm like, well, you're not, are you? You can't even go to Co-op, never mind the Isle of Skye. So forget that. So I got a bit of breathing space there. And then after, in those weird heady times when we were allowed to go back to the pub again, as long as I think you could only go for like 42 minutes, and you had to wear a hat, and you absolutely weren't allowed to look at anybody. If you went to the toilet, you had to walk in backwards, all that kind of stuff. I went to the pub with my mate Mark, who's a gaming guy, and we were talking about my camper van business, and I wanted out and all this. And at the time, I made like little boxes that fitted in between the seats in camper vans. And he was like, "Why don't you make a little folding gaming table thing?" So I was like, "Right, okay. We've only got another 32 minutes in the pub, so speak fast. What are we gonna do?" So he's like, "Yeah, it's really." And I knew Mark played games and all this. I was like, "Okay, what's?"
Can I just interject here and just say that it's not just Mark, it's Mark Dainty.
It is Mark Dainty, yes, that's right.
Of not board
that's
gaming.
Right, yeah.
So like you're kind of like brushing over him, like is that just that? It's just like a dainty way of brushing over poor old Mark. No.
He's a good lad.
Mark is quite, he is a good lad, and he's relatively kind of well known in the space. It's like, oh yeah, this guy, he kind of plays games now and again. He's got like a channel. I think he played Monopoly once or something, so that sort of stuff. Wow. He said it was the best game he's ever played as well, and that he says he can't be bothered with any of these other kind of more biggery game kind of things. You can't be bothered with that kind of nonsense. It's just like, as far as he's concerned, it's Monopoly or die. He loves his Monopoly. That. In fact, his YouTube channel, he's got unboxings of, what's he got? He's got Barbie Monopoly here. He's done an unboxing of London shopping Monopoly.
I believe it's a Sheffield one as well.
Woodworking Monopoly. He's done, his latest video is Sheffield Monopoly and why I'll never sell this version of Monopoly.
He's crossed West Street out, put his own road on there, all that sort of stuff.
It's like not board gaming if you haven't checked out his channel. It's good fun, especially if you like kind of getting Park Lane. Check out.
So yeah, Mark. So Mark was basically, you should try this. I was like, right. So it's like, what about this then? So he got Kickstarter out and showed me the Wormwood campaign that made 400 gazillion pounds. I was like, hello, okay, this has got legs. So I went away and designed something that was called the Arc, which was like a bigger fold-up table. Prototyped it all, and it was okay. It was kind of like those things you're supposed to vault over at school, those sort of vaulting mule things. It was that sort of shape, a bit smaller.
A vault.
Vaulting horse mule. Donkey.
I don't know. People are shouting at us what this actual thing's. We're just angered again.
I wasn't big in PE. Really wasn't big at that. So I went away and designed this, and then a few weeks later, or a couple of months later, we were back at the pub again. Different pub this time. I think we were allowed out for 2 hours at this point. And Mark's like, well, yeah, that's great, but I think perhaps you should do a smaller one. I was like, oh, really? So I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. Maybe do something that's smaller as a start project, something a little bit smaller. So I went home, and then the next morning, in my lying there drunk in bed, or hungover at least, I came up with the idea of Stowii, which was this much smaller little thing. So the concept sort of came the next day, but obviously it was a lot of work to get it to the stage it's at. So yeah, from there the idea was really to start the Fantasy Woodworks, do other things as well, like the boxes I make, dice boxes and dice towers and all that sort of stuff. But really focus on Stowii to get that developed. Thankfully, it meant I got to see the very back of camper vans. In fact, I can't even look at my own anymore.
It's really funny because it seems to be like around my estate, it seems to have become the kind of the latest hobby. There must be about 3 or 4 about the estate, and like when it's not raining, I see kind of people out there kind of like putting in strip lights and beds and stuff like that, pretty much kind of.
I think they definitely got bigger after lockdown, when everyone was like, oh, we need family, and we need to be with our family and all this sort of stuff and find ourselves. Let's get camper vans. They've probably all gone off it again now. No, we've had enough of family now. Let's get back to Tenerife.
They've actually decided they've gone and lived in their camper van to get away from their family and just leave them alone to be watching kind of reality television, because that's how they kind of
had that 4 days on Mull in the pouring rain. Gone, right, let's sell the camper van. Enough of that now.
But at least we've got Mark along, because he's brought all his Monopoly for us to play. So he's gonna kill me.
Mark's now got his own motorhome, so he's joined the ranks.
Oh, he's just as bad as the rest of us.
He's got his. He's got his gin palace.
His gin palace. But so one of the things that people are talking about, or I'm talking about, I'm saying people, that suggests that I talk to other people, which is completely not true. But there are kind of gaming tables on the kind of the market. And one of the things with gaming tables is it automatically allows you to whistle through your teeth. Because every single time I've inquired about a gaming table, somebody's told me the price of the gaming table, and I've went, like that. So was that one of the main deciders behind kind of coming up with Stowii, was to kind of make it kind of more affordable? Because what kind of price? I mean, cutting to the chase, what kind of price are we looking at for? What would kind of get you through the door with an average kind of Stowii?
Well, the table without all the fancy accessories is £550 plus VAT, so that's about $640, I believe. The whole singing, dancing with all the accessories comes in at around £1,000 with VAT, £750 without that. So the idea was always to keep it as low as I could, so it wasn't competing with those bigger tables. And it's, I get comments a lot with people going, oh, if it was like $300, I might be interested. I'm like, well, if it's $300, I'd be paying you to have it, and that's, as bad as I am at business, I'm not doing that. So yeah, it's kind of, the price has gone up, but it's got to the stage where, even down to the packaging that I've designed is all cardboard, so it's all honeycomb cardboard, so I don't want any plastic in there, and it's got bags for things and lots of little extras, so it's still very much a premium product, but hopefully at a price that's a little more affordable. The main thing really was that people just haven't got room for in Britain particularly, we don't have dining rooms that we can put rither tables that are 8 foot square. A lot of people are in flats or small houses, and the idea of Stowii really was that if you wanted a gaming table, it's one that you can just put up when you need it. You can have it in your house, or you can take it around to a friend's house, take it outside, take it camping. So the idea was, it's something that's very flexible and something that you can use as you need it to be used, really, and hopefully at an affordable price, but you can still impress your friends with.
Was it is the idea then, when you're going to kind of Kickstarter, is it more of a pre-order kind of situation than an actual, this is a kind of a price to pay for kind of ordering and manufacturing the kind of the table? Because I can't imagine it'll be an economy of scale like a kind of a print run. I mean, I guess if you're able to buy, if you end up with 500 orders for this, then does that affect the economy of scale, or is it more of a case to say, well, let's kind of get the word out there that this thing exists, and also see if we can get some people kind of ordering it?
No,
how you planning on attacking?
I'd very much like people to order it. There is a bit of a price reduction if we get to bigger numbers, but it's not huge amounts. If it goes from 300 sales to 500, it gets a little cheaper for us to produce, but not a huge amount. Equally, if it sold 10, that would probably be a bit problematic to produce them at a decent price. In the end, it was always my intention to go on to do Kickstarter, but the problem I have is that it's kind of a bit unfashionable these days, but I'm actually using crowdfunding for, I think, what it was originally designed for, which is actually kickstarting a business. Obviously, a lot of people use it now. You get games table manufacturers who will be like, oh yeah, we're now making this one in Canadian Beach, so it's version 1.5.3, so we're going to put it on Kickstarter again. It's really just become a marketing a marketing launch thing, or a way of getting some more money in. With myself, it's really, I want this to kickstart the Fantasy Woodworks and Stowii. But the problem I had was that I have absolutely no marketing budget whatsoever. So I was looking at Kickstarter thinking, Kickstarter's got its preview page, but it's absolutely atrocious. It's a picture and a paragraph. So no one really bothers with it. I think it now comes up in searches a bit, but no one really bothers with that stuff. And I started looking at GameFound, and I was like, hang on, they've got a really good pre-order page. It's, a preview page where you can basically make it your campaign page, put all your details in. You can get feedback, you get comments, which are mainly good, and you can basically plan it all that way. And I was like, that's a really good idea. I like that, because then it's almost like I can send people there, and it is like a marketing thing, really, rather than having to do Facebook ads I can't afford. And the other thing I really liked about GameFound was that they do the stretch pay, so people can pay in installments, which you can't get with Kickstarter. And because Stowii is obviously a little bit more expensive than just buying a game, I really like the idea of being able to split it up so people can pay for it in 4 sections. And also, GameFound really do seem to care about the people who are on there. Like Kickstarter, you send them a message and they just look through their little pile of stock answers and go, there you go, there you are. Where the guys at GameFound really look after you and talk about what you're doing, and they even hassle you to do updates and things. So I really like the system there. So generally, I think GameFound's a much better platform. The only downside, of course, is it doesn't have the big footfall that Kickstarter has. So that is a bit of a gamble.
I think we're kind of in a funny place with crowdfunding, in the fact that you did used to go to Kickstarter and see what was going on. In fact, what I used to do was go on to Kickstarter, filter it by the kind of the latest projects, and then just chuck a quid at them all.
Right, yes.
Just to kind of because I've got quite a few people following me on Kickstarter, and me chucking a quid at something means that it ends up in about 20 or 30 people's other kind of inboxes, and kind of raises awareness kind of that way. Now you've kind of got things like the Backer Kits now put his hand out there, and you've got GameFound as well. And I think that the way Kickstarter seems to be like the Amazon of the crowdfunding world, where it knows that everybody's gonna use it, that everybody thinks, if you talk crowdfunding, the number of times I'm writing a preview for something and I'll have to change it from the word Kickstarter to crowdfunding, because it's not a Kickstarter project, but I'm so used to writing the word Kickstarter that it automatically kind of comes up in the vocabulary when
it's
I'm
almost
writing
like become like the word Hoover, isn't it? Which it means vacuum cleaner, but it's a brand. That's almost what Kickstarter's become. Yeah.
Exactly. But at the same time, there just seems to be this kind of a slight level of arrogance there. And they kind of, there's a very much a kind of a, we're going to use kind of like blockchain, and then people were kind of like, well, we don't want you to use blockchain, and then they were like, well, we're going to use it anyway, and then 6 months later they came out and says, well, actually, sorry, we were kind of like in the pub and we had taken lots of shots, and then somebody said blockchain and I thought it was funny, and then I released a statement on it, and then we had to pedal it back, so we're really sorry. But the responsibility always seems to lie on the end user, whereas GameFound, there does seem to be kind of like, they're talking about account managers, but they do seem to actually have account managers who want things to be kind of successful, and they want to be kind of pushing it. And total transparency, a friend of mine does work for kind of GameFound. So, but then I have friends that work for GameFound, but I don't have friends that work for Kickstarter, because there doesn't seem to be that kind of relationship.
But it's like on Kickstarter, they you can put a page forward to be approved, and they go like, yeah, fine, and then you can basically just take it all down and start again if you wanted to. With GameFound, they're like really finicky. It's like if one of my add-ons hadn't got a description, like, nope, not approving it till you've put something in there. Like, oh, please give me a break. I'm going to do it. So they really care about what the pages look like, I think, and the products that are on there. To the stage they're actually quite, when I first contacted them, they were a little bit, they were sort of a bit disparaging about the product. And we had a fold-up table that was on there recently, and it did really badly. So I don't know if there's room for your product. And I've been working on this for 2 years. I think there's people have been dancing in front of it at the NEC. People do like it. So I think we're okay. But they are, they're not like, oh great, come on. They are very realistic as well. The product that didn't work, which is fold-up gaming table, it ended up being about 80 kilograms and about $3.5 grand. So it's like, I could see why that didn't do so well.
I kind of need a car.
It's portable
as well if I'm going to be transporting.
Portable as long as you've got a forklift somewhere around your house.
Portable as long as you're quite happily to kind of lift 18 stone worth of portable.
If you're one of those buff photographers we talked about earlier, you'd probably be fine.
Exactly. I'm looking for the Mr. Universe of gaming tables to help me move my gaming table around the place when I got my gaming table, because this sucker's so big. But in terms of marketing, then, what has it been like, kind of getting the word out on it? Has that presented its own level of challenges? I guess as you being a kind of a busy businessman and having kind of experience, you would have done the kind of the pitching, you would have done the kind of touting for business kind of thing. But how's it been kind of, it is a unique product.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine if you go into like a crowdfunding Facebook group and say, hey, does anybody want to talk to me about my product on their wherever, you would get, could you send us out a sample? And it's like, no, you're not don't really gonna be doing that. So how have you approached the kind of the marketing side of it?
Well, we got quite a lot of traction early on, particularly because Mark was mentioning it in a lot of the Facebook groups, which got us quite a few people on our Facebook page. So that got a lot of interest, and we got a reasonable mailing list as well, which I didn't really keep up with too much, so I should have sent more stuff out, but but really it has been, we did 3 shows this year, which is good. We did the NEC, the Tabletop Scotland, and Aircon, where we got really good feedback, and people were very excited there. So it's just been really a bit of that, really, just getting word of mouth and just getting on the Facebook groups. Obviously, you can't go on the Facebook groups too often and go, look at me again, look at me. Like, no, go away now. So, it's just been kind of organic. It would have been great to do some Facebook ads, probably, but I think maybe further down the line we might do that. But, it's really just been word of mouth. And the preview page on GameFound's doing pretty well. I think it's got like 1,600 followers, which is good.
That's all right.
It's just a question of how many of those people are actually going to pledge, which is the I don't know situation.
You don't know, do you? Because it's a decision, but you've kind of got like a hybrid product. I mean, I think if I was talking like a solid kind of gaming table, first of all, that's never going to happen in my house because I've got a dining table, and me saying, oh yeah, I want to turn a dining table that we've got into a gaming table, the answer is going to be kind of no. However, from another practical point of view, if I've then got something portable, that's more appealing to me, because it could be a case of, well, I could actually just bring this along to, the hall, wherever we're going to be having our next event, and I'll bring it along and I'll get it set up, and it'll be something fancy, and it'll be better than setting up a couple of kind of pasting tables as well.
We've had quite a few people who are developers, game developers, going, this would be really cool to take to shows to put our games on. We can pack them away. I've now got an add-on which is like little wheels that clip onto it, so you can use it like a little trolley, so you don't have to pick it up and carry it across the car park. People are like, that'd be really cool if we had a couple of these on our stand to show games off, because it's got all the lights around it and all that sort of stuff. So it has. I don't want to blow my own trumpet or anything, but it has got many uses. You can use it without the legs as a coffee table. and have it at different sizes, take some of the panels off to use it as a smaller table. We took one down to, there's a girl called Cozy Rosie, who we took a table down to her in London. She's got a little flat down there, and she's an influencer. And it's ideal for her because she can set it up in a little room. And I think she's got 85,000 followers on TikTok, which is just, I think I've got 30. I think
that's scary.
She did a video of it, and I think got like 300,000 views. And so yeah, it was quite popular. We were like, oh, this is good. I can see what these influencers are all about now. I see why we give them things.
You can see you have worse.
Exactly.
You have this, and you shall be providing me with kind of more. What size of games is it going to fit? I mean, is there a particular size of game it does well with? I mean, is this because it looks like you can expand it out. So is it good for pretty much all of the kind of the main kind of bigger hitters and stuff like that?
Yeah. So the main surface of the table is 3 foot square. So you are. You might struggle to get, Warhammer sort of stuff on there. But we are doing an extension to make it up to 4 foot square. After that, I can't go any bigger than that. But yeah, I mean, it really started out as being a table that was more for solo gamers, probably. So most solo games will fit on there. And it has extra slot-in side extensions for tokens and cards and things. So for unless it's a very big game, it's pretty much going to fit on there. And the other thing is you can actually join 2 together. So you can take one of the light bars off and slot 2 tables together to obviously make a 6x3 table.
Wow.
Or more. You could put 4 together if you wanted.
I mean, you could do the whole thing, couldn't you? You could literally write the word Stowii in Stowii tables.
You could do that, yes.
You could literally do that, and then you could just have a super kind of game. I like that. I like the idea of having something that you can set up for a couple of days, and it's just sitting there. Then you play your game, and then you kind of put it away. And it's just a temporary thing, so you could stick it in the garage and have all the lighting and then just come in and kind of play your game. And then when you're taking it down, you're kind of like taking it down. So it kind of appeals. It kind of appeals. I also like the fact you've got all the little kind of side accessories as well. So you've got like people playing kind of Wingspan, and they've got their own specific playing kind of shelf, where they kind of put all their accessories on, which kind of makes things it makes things kind of interesting. You've got drinks there as well, which would never happen in my house.
I also went for the big stainless drinks holder, so they'll actually hold a pint as well, or a flask, a big flask, rather than the smaller ones.
That would just be absolute carnage. I can't imagine why are you encouraging.
You can also leave them in the bottom of the Stowii, so it's not on your gaming surface. You can leave them down there, so your drinks are out of the way, or leave them down there and use them.
You could leave them in the kitchen.
You could leave them in the kitchen. No. You could do that.
Leave them in the kitchen. Just keep them away. You could fill them with flowers, maybe dried flowers in there or something. It would have been ironic there if you just spilled the drink. I'm not going to say anything, but if you just no, they're perfectly safe. It's like, what's happened? I've just spilt smelly beer.
Right, get rid of the cups. We're not having them anymore.
I'm just gonna start licking the table, even though my whole entire workstation is gonna smell of beer.
I've destroyed many a keyboard using that technique, I must say.
I would say it's like it's probably that's something you can blame on Bigfoot. It just came in, didn't it? Why does it smell of beer though? It's beer foot.
He's a heavy drinker. That
it's
guy.
A new species. It just comes in steaming from the forest, as you know. Most things that come in from the forest are always slightly kind of steaming. When's the launch date?
The launch date is the 10th of the 10th. So if I have a look at my page here, not that I've got it on my screen all the time or anything, but I've turned it off. I believe it's 13 days' time.
That's
It
scary.
is very scary, yeah.
But it's also at the same time, it's good that you've picked a date that Americans can't confuse.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is what you want. It's like, I'm not saying anything, but I am going to say stuff, is that like when I get dates, things coming out and it's like, oh yeah, we'll see you on October 4th. And it's 10-4. And it's like, no, that's 10th of April.
Yeah, you've missed that,
sorted out. So this is the 10th of the 10th. So everything's going to fine.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, people turn up at 23 minutes past 10 in October and you're just like, well, you're absolutely ridiculous. For people that have listened along tonight and they're just like going, this is like a roller coaster, please can we get off, has the ride finished? Where can they find you? Where do you exist on the internet web stuff? Where can they find you?
Well, we have the website for the Fantasy Woodworks, which is thefantasywoodworks.com.
It's not a clever name, but it's a clever website address, and it's full of bits of wood. It was available, which is always good. And there's a fabulous range. I'd like to point you to the wonderful, beautiful range of dice towers, the replacement dice tower for Wingspan, which looks absolutely cracking. Nice. You've also got a wonderful range of dice boxes that start from about 35 quid and go upwards, and they're all if you're talking about Christmas gifts, this is the place where you want to go. Where else can we find you?
The boxes and all that sort of stuff is kind of like my creative outlet. So when I'm not cutting sheet material to make prototype Stowies, I can be pouring resin and playing with pretty wood and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of where that comes from. Up in my attic, in my little paintings den. The place to find Stowii is probably the easiest way is to go to stowii.com, which is stowii.com, which will take you to the GameFound page. And I think I've got an Etsy shop, but that's basically got the same stuff as the Fancy Woodwork shop on there. And I also actually have another little branch to my creativity, which is Cryptese, which
I don't. What is that?
Well, I said the thing about Bigfoot. I have a range of T-shirts that I have that are all paranormal based goodness. So
wow.
On Etsy, that is Cryptese merch, I believe it is.
I thought that was going to go in a different direction. I'm glad it went in a different direction to the direction I thought it was going to be, because I realised it's T's as in T-E-S and not
teasing.
Right, so there you go. Yes, that's what I was worried about. I was worried about oh no, we've got a live crypto bro on the show, and he's going to start talking about his Bigfoot coin, to which I'd be like that. Oh, I've just wasted 57 minutes of my life
finally
talking to somebody who's a crypto. No, he's got on. How did they get through the net and come on and say, remember, buy our Bigfoot coin, it costs 50 or whatever.
Don't
they
be
call
giving
it.
me ideas.
That could be funny, a Bigfoot coin. I mean, let's say they had Dogecoin, which I believe musky pups getting kind of sued for kind of like inflating the price. But there you go. What we'll do is we'll put all the links in the show notes so that we've got notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, then go to the internet webs and search for We Are Not Wizards, and you'll find us in all the different places. Worn Out Phrases, bright and early for the daily races. We are on the Facebook, and you can find us on the website is we'renotwizards.com. The blog review site is we'renotwizards.co.uk. You can find us across the social medias. You just search for We Are Not Wizards. You will find us pretty much everywhere that something is breathing. If you like what you've listened to tonight, please check out the podcast catcher of choice and give us a rating or a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it's called, and Spotify is always nice because it always helps bump us up a little bit in the charts. If you are going to be giving us a rating or a review, don't give us 10 stars because it makes me big-headed, but at the same time, don't give us 1 star because it makes me cry. Give me something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average, and we're just a little bit average, but the person who's not been average, rather wonderful, rather fantastic. The over-imaginative man from Sheffield who's bringing you a table that you can shift about that isn't 16 stone. It's Dav Thomas. Thank you for guesting.
Thank you very much for having me.
And there's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Dav?
Well, I may be a wood wizard, but I'm not a traditional wizard, that's for sure.
Every single time. Without fail. And the other thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Dav. Say goodbye.
Goodbye, Dav.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, make something awful, and if I'm trying to remember, if you want to do something kind of that's out there, that's different, but you can move it about, and then you can set it down, and you can play stuff, and it doesn't involve you actually kind of you having to physically whittle wood and cut down trees and everything like that, and get yourself a Stowii. But until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.